I'm so excited about the video that we're going to listen to tonight. It's the video from this time's book club. If you haven't seen, you see it, Diane, already? Girls, good. So good. It's so good that I watched the whole thing, and I'm going to watch the whole thing again because that's how good it was. And the guy's funny, easy to listen to. It's about goal setting, and I got chills over and over because I know I've told you guys before that I was invited to do, when I was a Jewel trainer a handful of years ago, they gave us topics basically that they wanted us to determine who would speak on each topic. And I wanted to speak on probably self-development, self-growth, that kind of thing. But they paired me with Sonia Dudley and Helen McFadden. And so it was like an arm wrestle between me and Sonia, who got to talk about what? Because we talk about the same, we love the same topics. And so I was like, you go ahead, we were originally going to like break it up into two and both of us speak on whatever it was, self-growth. Well, at the last, like on the last week before it was time to actually do it, she traded me topics and she wanted me to do goal setting. And I was like, no, girl, no. But I just did it anyway. But what I did was throw the actual slides up on the wall from the goal setting talk. And I just talked about what I wanted to talk about. And I didn't get asked back, y'all. I'm just going to tell you, I'm telling you the straight truth, okay? This is the straight up truth. I got more feedback from Jules in the room about they've never heard anything put that way. I still to this day get feedback from the Jules in the room saying, girl, that talk, it changed my life, all these things, okay? But it wasn't on the beaten path. It wasn't SMART goals. S stands for M stands for A stands for, it wasn't that. I skipped over all that because I think that stuff is predictable, cliche, and boring. So you can imagine how excited I was to listen to this gentleman basically even reference SMART goals. He's like, you've probably heard of SMART goals. And I was like, so many things that he said totally resonated with me, and I'm excited to share it with you guys tonight. So we're going to jump right in. Please, if you have not been, I should say it like this. If you have not been using stories and stuff, and if you've not been doing things that would lead to inviting people to a group, I encourage you to add yourself in. I put a new, basically notes from tonight's call thread in my team page, and I put it in my alumni group. And basically it has the graphics to create yourself a story, put a poll on the last one, ask them if they'd like more info or if they're ready. Anybody who clicks more info, you want to add them to the group. Anybody who says, I'd like more info, you say, oh, good, we're doing this thing Thursday night. I'd love to add you to this group. Send them the link to the group, and then tag them in the post about the prizes so that they know where the group is. You know that they're in there. Everything is good. Anybody that you've ever invited to that group, y'all, I better see some tagging. I'm just saying. I'm deciding whether I'm going to actually continue doing events or not, because it's silly of me to waste energy on that. I could be doing a million other things. So I'm going to start the video. I'm going to actually go tag some people. I've already added what I suggested you add to your story. I already added it to my story. And any bites I get tonight, I'm going to add those to the group. I'm going to know if y'all are adding to the group because I'm one of the people that has to approve the people to the group. So no pressure, except for that's pressure. All right, here we go. We're going to work our businesses, or we're going to work our businesses. Which way it is. Here we go. Let's share screen. You're like, oh, shoot. Mama, will you join the group? Oh, shoot. I'm going to have to ask my sister. I'm just being silly. Okay. Let me see if I can pull this up like this. Let's try it like this. Are y'all seeing Genevieve's face right now? Okay. Now I'm going to get rid of this YouTube background. I'm going to get rid of that. Here we go and go.
Good morning, One Plexus. We are so excited this morning to have you here for our book club. My name is Genevieve Scory. I am the Senior Director of Global Ambassador Training for Plexus Worldwide, and you are here at book club, which is honestly so much more. Good morning, everyone. So much more than book club, wouldn't you agree? How many of you have been enjoying our series so far? Has it been helping you grow? One of the reasons that we do book club is because the founders of our company, Alec Clark and Charles Robinson, believe in personally helping people develop. We believe in helping people be more and have more and do more, and we're a health and happiness company, right? And so we know that health and happiness are tied together, and part of that, part of being more and having more and being happier is growing who you are as a person, because the more we grow, the more others around us grow, and the more impact we can have on the world. For those of you that are here as wholesale ambassadors or customers, or maybe you were invited here by one of our ambassadors, welcome. Plexus is a great community. We are a group of people just looking to live our lives together in, as I mentioned, health and happiness. Book clubs are done once a month. You get to get on whether you've read the book or not. We highly recommend reading the book because that creates the most impact. But we're also super excited to have you come on, because this is kind of like our company TED Talk. You know, we actually get to engage in a close setting with top-notch best-selling authors. And today is honestly and truly, I think, my all-time favorite. Today we have Jon Acuff on, who is a New York Times best-selling author. He has written many, many books. He's internationally known. He is a motivational speaker and a YouTuber, he just told us, as well as an Orange Theory fitness enthusiast. If you haven't read the book, you won't know that he's a husband and a mom. He's a mom, first ever mom. He's a dad, and his book is so hilariously informative. And so we're asking you to stay on, because we will have full Q&A afterward. But Jon Acuff, I want to introduce you to our One Plexus community, and I'm just going to turn the call right over to you. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I love that we get to do this on a Saturday. I love that Plexus pours into their team just like this, with opportunities to say, okay, we care about your development. We care about the next steps. We want you to win. I think that's awesome. And I need to start with a story about college. When I was in college, I decided that I should try out for the football team. Now, you probably can't see because this is a screen, and if we were live, you could tell, but obviously I should play football. When you've been given a frame like this, to not play football is to deny the world your gift. You can't keep a tiger out of the jungle, as they say. But I knew I needed to find a position that wouldn't liquefy every bone in my body every single play, because I went to a D1 school. I went to Stanford University in Birmingham, Alabama. Sometimes people think I say Stanford, and I do not correct them. I say, thank you, Stanford, the Harvard of the West. Go Trees, me and Tiger Woods. But we played schools like Georgia and Auburn, so I knew I needed to be a kicker. But not just any kicker, because sometimes the guy who punts, the guy who kicks off, has to pretend almost tackle if the receiver makes it through everybody else. The kicker has to stand there and dive and lightly graze his feet as he sprints by. They don't even give kickers real pads. You have to make your own pads at home if you're a kicker. So I decided the safest bet for me would be to kick field goals. So that's what I did. I bought a stand and I bought a ball, and late at night I would sneak into the stadium and I would practice my field goal kicks. Now, during my extensive field goal practice, I was able to connect and successfully hit, carry the 0 field goals. I never kicked a successful field goal. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the worst at finishing. Because I have these goals, I have all these goals, but then I don't finish them. Maybe it's just me. But then I started to do the research, and I started to see things like this. 92% of all New Year's resolutions fail. 92%. You have a greater shot at getting into Juilliard, to be a professional ballerina, which is an 8.6% chance, tiny dancer, than you do at finishing a goal. That was a university study. We've all been there, right? We've all had fitness goals that we thought, okay, this is it. I'm going to do it. Like maybe you're one of these gym people, like you're like, I'm getting into it. I'm going to flip tires as a form of exercise. Every time I see somebody flip a tire as a form of exercise, I think that is the least efficient way to transport a tire. They're actually designed to be very easy to get from one part of a room to the other. For me, it was P90X, the DVD series. It's taken me 3 years to do 6 days of P90X. And that is not the schedule they recommend. That is not optimal. But maybe it was like that for you. Maybe you saw the ads and you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get jacked in my kitchen. I'm going to be doing so many burpees in my living room. And then you get it, and the first 5 days are really hard. But then you see yoga on the schedule and you think, I can do yoga. That's like 50% candles. But even the yoga day was hard. Maybe right now you have a Peloton in your garage that's just a really expensive place to dry laundry. That's what it's doing right now, because we all start these goals, but then we don't finish them. And part of the problem is how we talk about goals. We say things like this: well begun is half done. Or what's another one we say? Oh, the hardest part of any journey is the first step. And that feels so good on a mug, right? But what does that really mean? Well begun is half done. If a surgeon told you, once I've made the first incision, I'm like halfway done with your surgery, you would say, where did you go to school? The hardest part of any journey is the first step. That's not even a little true. The middle is the hardest part. We have launch parties. We have kickoff parties. I've never been to a middle party. I've never had a manager or a boss say, hey, we're at the worst part of the project. Time for middle cake. Where do people cheer at marathons? At the beginning and at the finish line. The middle is challenging and lonely and hard. And so we tend to over-celebrate the wrong parts of goals. When I thought about writing a book called Finish, I went to Amazon and I looked up the word finish, and the only thing that came up was laundry detergent and dishwasher detergent. We talk about the beginning so much, but we neglect making it through the middle. We neglect what it takes to finish, and there's a cost. You see, scientists call it the Z effect. You remember incomplete goals more than you remember completed ones. Have you ever had that happen? You go to bed at night and you go, okay, brain, time to go to sleep. And your brain goes, what if instead we thought about mistakes you failed at 3 years ago? Bing! And you wake right back up. If you don't want to sleep tonight, go through your email right before bed. Look at all the stuff I didn't get to today. This is like digital melatonin. Peaceful. Another way to say it is this: the goals you don't finish don't disappear. They become these ghosts that haunt you. And I wanted to know why that happens. And better than that, I wanted to know how to prevent it from happening. I wanted to become a finisher. I wanted to know, can you go from being a chronic starter to a consistent finisher? What does that look like? How do I do that? And so I went to the University of Memphis and I commissioned a research study with a PhD there named Mike Peasley. And he and I looked at 900 people for 6 months as they worked on goals. Simple goals, complex goals, easy goals, hard goals, financial goals, sales goals, side hustle goals, so that we could say, okay, if you want to finish, here are the things that you need to do. And that's what I get to talk to you about today. Now, you might be wondering, but why does it matter if we finish? Well, here's why it matters. Because at Plexus, it's not about a widget. It's about health and happiness. This matters. At Plexus, you know, okay, if you're blessed, be a blessing. If you're blessed, be a blessing. That's what we care about. So it matters that you finish your goals, because here's the thing. A goal is never just a goal. A goal is a promise. It's a promise you make to yourself. It's a promise you make to your team. It's a promise that you make to your friends and your neighbors and your family. And every time you break that promise, it gets harder to make the next one. So I want us to be finishers. I want you to be very deliberate about going, I'm going to finish the goals I start with health and happiness. I'm going to be deliberate about that. I am going to be that blessing. So what does it take for you and I to finish? Well, the first thing, you have to choose what to bomb. You have to make sure that you actively choose ahead of time, what are the things I'm going to do that matter, and what are the things that don't matter. This always reminds me of when I lived in Atlanta. When I lived in Atlanta, we had the worst yard in the entire neighborhood. And I knew that because of how the yard guy described what he was going to do. He came over one day and he said, I'm so excited that I get to work on your yard. I'm going to get to showcase every single service I offer. And that was yard guy for your yard is the worst. And he was right. It was one of those yards that from afar looked nice. Like from afar, it looked green. But if you got close and you removed every weed, you'd see it was just red Georgia clay. And the reason I didn't care about our yard at the time was that we had 2 kids under the age of 3. And I love kids. Kids are beautiful, but a toddler is a crisis. Like there's no toddlers on right now. Let's just be honest. A toddler is a beautiful crisis. When you have a toddler, some days your only finish line is the finish line of bedtime, right? Have you ever put your kid down to bed so early that the sun is still pretty high and they can hear other kids outside frolicking? And your kid's like, Mom, why are we putting blackout shades in my room? And you're like, pipe down. It's midnight in China. We're celebrating the year of the dragon. Have you ever had a kid put their hand in the oven? No? Just the ACUFs? Yeah, that's a fun doctor visit. Because you go and the doctor's like, hey, don't let your kid put their hand in the oven. You're like, let me write it down, doc. This complicated medical jargon. So you're saying hand outside the oven is better. Okay, because you guys keep changing things on us. Sleep on the back, sleep on the stomach. I can't keep up, doc. If you can't see your toddler in your house and it's quiet for 30 seconds, they're not somewhere helping orphans. They're somewhere testing your perimeter for weaknesses. Like a raptor throwing its body against an electric fence. Ooh, this door doesn't lock. If mom takes a 4-second nap, I am out. It's challenging. And in those moments, you have to choose what matters. And it's really challenging right now because of comparison. I think about it this way. In the 1980s, my mom, Libby Acuff, we lived in Hudson, Massachusetts. She couldn't compare her motherhood to what a mom in Seattle, Washington was doing, or a mom in Grapevine, Texas was doing, or a mom in Oklahoma City was doing. Why? Because she didn't have access to their lives. She could compare herself to the 5 other moms on our cul-de-sac, but she couldn't look at a million moms instantly. But now with Instagram, now with social media, you can. And you can go online in 30 seconds, feel inadequate, and feel like you're not doing enough. I mean, do you know any perfect moms? There's so many of them online. They're always posting photos of their husband and they're forming hearts with their hands. And like the husband never travels and his favorite hobby is back rubs. He just likes to give me back rubs. That's one of his hobbies. He gives me so many gifts. And their meals they make are amazing. Like it's mac and cheese, but it's deconstructed with like a Gouda demi-glaze and noodle shapes they only sell at Williams-Sonoma. And they're like, well, it's locally sourced from my own little farm. We have a goat, just one. His name is Chewy. You should follow him on Instagram. He has his own account. He's a rascal. And you're making your kid easy mac. You ever made your kid that bowl of shame? You're just stirring it. And eventually you get tired of being stirring and you give it to your kid. And your kid's like, Mom, it's powdery. And you go, yeah, life is hard. It's true. It is powdery. Like their kids are always perfect. Their 2-year-old taught himself Mandarin. And you look at your own 2-year-old and go, my 2-year-old excels in glue consumption. Like he eats a lot of glue. He's in the 99th percentile of glue consumption. And in those moments, you feel inadequate. You feel like you're not doing enough. And here's what I need you to know. You have a choice. Here's your choice. Shame or strategy. Shame or strategy. Shame will tell you you can do it all. You should do it all. You have to do it all. Everyone else knows how to do it all. And then you try and it falls apart and you feel ashamed. Strategy says, okay, during this season, these are the things that matter. These other things don't. During this season, as I grow my business, as I lean into these things, these other things don't matter as much. And you stop things. Maybe for you, you look at your life and go, okay, I'm giving a lot of time to things that don't deserve my time. I mean, for me, if I'm honest, the one that's challenging is Netflix. Netflix is hard. Part of the reason is that I find it impossible to watch one episode of a TV show on Netflix and not just watch the second and the third and the fourth. Have you ever experienced that? And part of the reason is this is a fairly new power. When I was growing up, you had to wait a whole week to watch the next episode. Like, remember when the show 24 would go off the air and then go, you had to wait 7 days to see if Jack Bauer is going to throat chop somebody. Now what happens? When Netflix goes off the air, they go, hey, the show just ended. You want to do one more? You want to double down? One more for the road? And you go, I do. How'd you know? They don't even make you press a button. They go, hey, You don't have time to be pressing a button. We don't want you to get a callus on your finger. We'll just do a 7-second countdown to sadness and loneliness, and then you're going to watch the next show. You have 7 seconds to escape the tractor beam of Netflix. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here's another one. Even the way we talk about television has changed. In our generation, have you noticed that? The word binge has changed. When I was growing up in the 90s, binge was a negative term. It meant you were doing too much of one thing. Now, if you go to Barnes & Noble, there's a category of DVDs that say binge-worthy TV. I mean, think about it this way. In the 1990s, if you walked into a Blockbuster Video and rented 7 movies on a Saturday, even the teenage cashier would go, is everything okay? I mean, 7 movies. Like, we got creeks and like there's rivers outside and there's trails. Like, if you came to work on a Monday and somebody said, what did you do this week? And you said, I didn't even leave the couch. I just watched 7 movies in a row. They go, do you want to talk to HR? Now what happens? When you tell a friend you binge watched a whole series, what do? They recommend another series. They go, oh, you just finished this one? Try this one, try this one, try this one. So maybe you look at your life and go, okay, I want to give more time to the things that matter, so I'm going to take it away from things that don't. I'm going to have strategy. But maybe in your life there's things you can't stop. There's things that are important that you've got to keep doing. For those, simplify them. One of my favorite moms in my book, Finish, talked about how when she gets busy, what she does. She says, when I get busy, when I'm growing my business, I can't just tell my kids like, hey, there's not going to be any meals this week, so if you could forage in the neighborhood, maybe find a hipster garden. They always own chickens for some reason. Just find a hipster garden, you'll be fine. She can't say that, so she simplifies them. She said during a busy season, the meals get simple. It's pizza, it's hot dogs, and she simplifies it. I think the greatest sham we play on our kids is breakfast supper. Have you ever done breakfast supper? Oh, that's the best. Because you overhype it to your kids, right? You're like, we're having breakfast for supper, what? And your kid's like, that's amazing. And inside you're like, all I'm doing is scrambling some eggs. Simplify it. She said during busy seasons, the clothes get clean but not folded and put away. She has a laundry chair. Can't we all just admit, like, we have laundry chairs? It's our third machine, right? It goes washer, dryer, chair. And her kids pick socks off it like Fraggle Rock. I love that a kid can look down, notice he's wrinkled, and be like, Mom is killing it right now. She is growing her business. Way to go, Mom. You simplify things. You say, okay, this matters in this season, this other thing doesn't. But what can't you bomb? Like in this season especially, you can't bomb relationships. You need to build relationships. You need to lean into relationships. Why does it matter, especially right now in this weirdo year we've had? Because the emotional supply chain is disrupted too. We all know that it's hard to get bikes. It was weird to get toilet paper. Kayaks are sold out in Nashville where I live. But I would say the emotional supply chain is disrupted too. People are running hot, right? It was already going to be a stressful year, and then all this change happened, and we still have an election to come. Like, have you been on the Nextdoor app? Do you have Nextdoor where you live? It's kind of like Facebook, except Facebook only allows you to hate strangers. With Nextdoor, you can hate your neighbors too. I had to quit the Nextdoor app because I need to live next to and love these people, and it was not helping. Have you been on Twitter lately? Twitter is a mess. We're all running hot, but there's actually a really good opportunity in that for you. Here's the opportunity. Crisis magnifies kindness. Crisis magnifies kindness. The little things you do for your team, for your neighbors, for your family are worth 100 times what they were a year ago. Why? Because a crisis magnifies kindness. We're all looking for connection. We're all so isolated that the little things matter. People will pick up the phone right now and answer your call where a year ago they might not have, because people feel disconnected. I was reminded of this a few weeks ago. I was on a trail. I was doing a trail run, and it was big enough that I could be separated. And I saw this elderly gentleman that I'd seen the day before. And when I ran by him, he gave me a double thumbs up. A double thumbs up. And I told my wife about it when I got home. It made my day. I'm telling you about it right now. A year ago, I might have gone, double thumbs up. Feels extravagant almost. Why 2 thumbs? Like, who does that? Now, because of the crisis, now because we've been isolated, it meant a lot to me. And so I think you really need to lean into your relationships. If you want to serve people, if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow what you're doing right now, lean into that. And here's a really simple way. Ask somebody what they need. Why? Because when you ask someone what they need, they become visible and valuable. When you ask somebody what they need and actually listen and actually act on that, they become visible and valuable. That's what people want to know right now. They want to know, do you see me? And do I matter? So as you look at your business, as you look at your goals, figure out, okay, right now, these things matter, these other things don't. I'm going to focus on the things that matter, and I'm going to either simplify or ignore the things that don't, because again, you have a choice. It's shame or strategy, and I want us to pick strategy. The second thing you have to do if you really want to finish a goal, and this one is surprising to me, is you have to make it fun if you want it done. You have to make your goal fun if you want it done. You see, most people tend to think that a goal has to be difficult or miserable to count. I meet people all the time that'll say, John, I'm gonna get in shape. And I'll go, that's great. What are you gonna do? And they'll say, I'm gonna run. And I'll go, oh, do you like running? They go, no, I hate it. That's how I know it's good for me, because I hate it. And I think, well, you're gonna quit because you don't enjoy it. But it's all too often we think a goal has to be difficult. I'll ask people all the time, say your 5 words you think of when you think of goal, and they'll say sacrifice, willpower, persistence. They never say laughter, joy, engagement, fulfillment. They never say health and happiness. Happiness gets excluded. I mean, we do this over and over and over again. One of our most popular sports in America right now are adventure races. If you've never seen an adventure race, imagine a obstacle course and a half marathon put together. And they're great. They're things like the Tough Mudder, the Warrior Dash, the Spartan Race, the Muddy Buddy. I think they're wonderful. I just think it's a little weird that in the Tough Mudder, one of the activities is you get electrocuted. Yeah, one of the things that happens to you during the Tough Mudder is you have to run through a live wire field and possibly get electrocuted. Now, that feels like a weird thing to pay for, because most days there's this voice in your head going, man, I hope a live wire doesn't touch my body today. That would be bad. On Tough Mudder Day, you pay for that. Now, this is after you've jumped into a dumpster full of ice water and swum under a wall. Now, the wall is there to make sure you go all the way under and submerge deep enough that your brain gets so cold that you lose control and the synapses don't fire right and you lose control of your limbs and you kind of have a voluntary seizure. Then you get to crawl through the live wire field. And they're not all live, because where would the fun be in that, right? They want a little surprise. And my friend Dino did the Tough Mudder. If your name is Dino, the state makes you do adventure races. I said, what was it like? And he said, well, I was crawling through and I was wet. I said, I think that's good when you're on electricity. You want to be wet. Go on with your story, please. He said, I was crawling through, and right at the last second, a wire grazed me right between my shoulder blades. And it felt like a giant with a hammer for a hand punched me as hard as he could into the core of the earth. And I thought, whew, the t-shirt you get better be amazing. And that's what we do with our goals. We even do that with growing businesses. One of the most popular business frameworks for goals are SMART goals. You've probably seen this before. Last 30 or 40 years, great framework. What does it mean? It means your goal better be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. I like all of those words. I'm not against this at all. I just think it's a little incomplete. Where is happiness in that list? Where is fun in that list? What, time-bound? Hey, how was vacation? It was amazing. It was time-bound. So I knew when it was going to end. That was my favorite part. So see, I wanted to be able to talk to teams like yours to say, hey, fun matters. There's an ROI. You'll do better. You'll perform longer. You'll stay longer if you figure out how to make it fun. Because I go to all these.
ROI means return on investment, in case anybody doesn't know that. As long as there's a return on investment.
These companies, these serious companies, they go, we're not fun. We're not whimsical. We're not Google. That's what they always say. We're not Google. We don't have like water slides instead of stairs. We don't have ponies in the lobby and cotton candy. We do serious work. And I wanted to be able to say, that's fine. Do serious work. But just know you'll perform better if happiness is a priority. You'll perform better if fun is a priority. And so I studied that. Now, when you study a principle like this, there's 2 factors you're looking at. You're looking at satisfaction and performance. Satisfaction is, how did you feel? During the goal, as you worked on it, how did you feel? Performance is, how did you do? How did you actually perform? Now, see, any principle, whether it's mine or the next book club or the book club after that or any leadership principle you ever hear, better raise both of those. Here's why. Let's say that I help you raise your satisfaction. You're so happy. It's so fun, but not your performance. You end up smiling all the way to last place. You know, going, this is great. I mean, we're failing, but it feels great. Let's say I help you with your performance. Like you crush your performance, but you never care about your satisfaction. You know what happens? You become every rich, miserable person you've ever met. You ever met somebody who's really successful and really unhappy? Do you know why that happened? Because they over-focused on number 2 and they never thought about their satisfaction. Or their plan, this is their plan. I'm going to be miserable for 60 years, Then I'm going to move to Florida and get a golf cart and be instantly happy. Okay, so you're going to practice misery and grumpiness and lack of satisfaction for 6 decades, and then you expect being closer to the Gulf Coast to change your life? Like, oh, that's asking an awful lot of golf. It just is. No, you have to raise both of those factors. So we asked the people in this research study, okay, hey, make what you're doing fun. You've got goals, you're growing businesses, you're trying to lose weight, you're doing all these things. Make it fun. You know what happened? Here's the results. The people that did were 31% more satisfied. Now, that's not that.
I don't want to brag on myself, but, remember last week's Zoom? I didn't know that this was coming up, but remember last week's Zoom? We were talking about happiness and performance, success, happiness, and performance when we were watching the Amy the Unicorn, that guy. I mean, I feel like this is in the air. I feel like it's, I think people need to grasp this concept.
Surprising, right? I mean, like, having fun versus not having fun is clearly more satisfying. But the second stat was the crazy one. The people who made what they do fun were 46% better performing. They increased their performance by 46%. Now, you should be arguing with this idea right now. There should be some pushback happening in your head. Right now, you should be thinking, okay, John, that's fine, but let's be honest, kale isn't fun. It's not. I mean, kale tastes like wet sadness. It does. Like, we're eating a lot of kale chips at the Acuff house right now, which tastes exactly like regular chips if you've never tasted a regular chip. A kale chip tastes like you lit a novel on fire and then ate the burnt pages. Like, there's parts of any goal, whether it's growing a business, losing weight, whatever, that are challenging. There are things that are challenging in every endeavor we do. There are. I think we've done this next generation a great disservice by saying, always follow your heart. Always follow your passion, because what happens is people interpret that as the second it's challenging, it must be the wrong thing, and they jump to another thing. Do you know why people jump from one business to another? Do you know why somebody will say, okay, I'm into plexus, now I'm into jewelry, now I'm into this other thing? It's because they thought it would always feel a certain way and always feel magical, and then the second it doesn't, they bounce. And I'm not one of these people that's like millennials are lazy and entitled. I don't think that's true for a second. Whenever a boomer CEO tells me, oh, millennials are lazy and entitled, I always think, well, we should talk to the people that raised them. Oh, wait, that's you. The call is coming from inside the house. No, I know some millennials that are doing amazing work, that are growing beautiful businesses. But here's the thing, it's not always going to be inherently naturally fun. I heard another speaker say, look, if you don't love 90% of what it takes to be in your industry, you're in the wrong industry. And I thought, 90%? That means in a 40-hour work week, 36 hours are you in a field with a ribbon. Just like, this is amazing. I'm so in love with my job. And then 4 hours are challenging. That's not true. Every job has hard parts. Every job has weird parts. Maybe right now, if you sat down and thought, okay, to grow plexus, I have to stretch beyond my comfort zone. I have to do things I've never done before. I have to talk to people. Maybe you've got a passion, like you had a product passion. That's what got you here. You were like, okay, I want to do this. I can't believe how this makes me feel. I can't believe how it helps my family. And now you're at that threshold where you're like, okay, as an ambassador, for me to grow, I got to really be a good team leader. I got to really be willing to reach out to other people. I got to really be able to sell. I don't even know how to sell. That word feels bad to me. Like, how do I do it? You have all these things that are challenging right now, because every job does. My job has challenging parts. My job has weird parts too. One of the weirder things that happened to me was this last January. I got to open up for Dolly Parton at the Ryman Theater in Nashville. If you don't know Nashville, the Ryman is our #1 venue. It's the mother church of country music, and it was Dolly Parton. I mean, she's really one word at that point. If people say, "Hey, I saw Dolly," nobody goes, "Which of the many Dollys are you referring to?" She's one name, and she's so successful. It's hard to even capture how successful she is. I mean, what's interesting is that sometimes, like, when a rapper gets successful, he'll buy an exotic animal, and like a tiger. Dolly Parton can go, "Oh, that's so cute. I have a bald eagle. Do you know the bald eagle? Actually, I have 100 of them. I keep them at a place called Dollywood. We named it after me. It's an amazing amusement park. But no, please tell me about the tiger you bought." Like, her level of success, she could say, sometimes when people get successful, they donate like a wing to the library or some books. Dolly Parton could go, Hey, Mark, how many books did we donate for the Imagination Library? 135 million? That's what we've done. It's Dolly Parton. And so I got to speak, and they wanted me to do comedy. So I was doing 2 10-minute comedy segments at this Dolly Parton concert, and there were all these other musicians there. And during my second one, I was terrified. I want to be honest with you. I was so nervous. I was just standing there pacing, and I finally got out, and the lights are on me. There's 2,000 people, and the expectation. And I'm in the middle of my second set, and the drummer for Leonard Skinner walks up during the set and just starts talking to me while I'm telling a joke. He goes, you're doing great tonight. And I was like, I wanted to say, like, I'm kind of doing it right now, but I think I just said, like, free bird, and, like, he rambled off, and it was terrifying. My job has weird parts. Opening for Dolly was amazing. My job has weird parts, so your job has weird parts. So what do we do? It's not about having fun. It's about making it fun. You have to deliberately add fun to the parts of growing your business that are challenging. There's 2 ways to do this. Scientists look at 2 forms of motivation. They look at reward and they look at fear. Let's start with that fear word, because sometimes we always think it's negative, right? We see that word, we go, oh, no. Another word for that is consequence. If you ever got something done, for instance, on a Thursday because you had a Friday deadline, guess what? You just experienced a positive fear motivation. You didn't want to miss that deadline, so you hustled. Another way to say it is approach and avoidance. 2 types of motivations. An approach motivation is, if I do these 3 things, I approach this reward. And avoidance motivation is, if I do these 3 things, I avoid this negative situation. Both are motivation. And you know what's interesting is financial planners know this. A good financial planner, when you come in and you bring your family and you're going to talk about your money and what you want to do, a good financial planner knows how to read the room. They know how to figure out how you're wired, how you're motivated. Now, if you're reward motivated, you know what they say? They say, hey, if you get your money in order, if you invest, if you lean into your 401k, you'll get to retire early. They paint a picture of what could be, the promise. They say you can get an RV with one of those state maps on the back and fill in every one as you drive around the country. They paint the reward. If they know your consequence, they say the opposite. They say, hey, if you don't get your money in order, if you don't do that, it's going to be really challenging to ever retire. If you don't get your money in order, your kids, they might not be able to go to college without huge debt. They paint the consequence. So part of your job is to figure out, with self-awareness, what do I need to add to the parts of my goal that are challenging? And they don't have to be huge, huge rewards. I mean, it can be something small. It can be something insignificant. For instance, I was having trouble once finishing a manuscript of a book. I've written 7 books, and I was having a hard time getting this one across the finish line. So I decided, when I turn in the manuscript, I get to buy my own pair of ski boots. They weren't crazy expensive. I could have purchased them that day, but I needed the reward to pull me toward the finish line. I needed something to motivate me. It can be something small. It can be, I get to be, a new pair of jeans. When I hit this target, when I hit this goal, I get a new pair of shoes. Like, this is a guilt-free pair of shoes that I get to get. And every time I wear them, it's part of my superhero uniform. Because I'll be reminded, these, yeah, they helped me. This is a reward for some hard work I did, and there's a story there. What about on the consequence side? A lot of times, a good way to do a consequence is to get some accountability, to add somebody else to the conversation. Maybe you say to somebody on your team, hey, it's really hard for me to talk to new people about Plexus. It's really hard, but I've set a goal, and I want to talk to 5 people this week. So at the end of the week, will you just text me? Like, will you text me and ask me if I did that? Because now you've got a commitment. Now you've got some accountability. Now you've involved somebody else into the conversation. A friend of mine raised the ante even higher. A guy named David Hooper. He hired a business coach, and the business coach knew he was consequence focused. So he said, look, I want 3 signed checks from you. And every time that you miss one of your goals, I'm going to send the politician you hate the most some of your money. You better believe that motivated my friend, and he would really amp it up. He'd be like, hey, that person's going to do such terrible things with your money, and it would force my friend to get motivated. You have to get creative with it. You have to find little ways to do it. I'll give you an example from my own life. One day I step off stage. I've just spoken to 1,300 salespeople. Step off stage, and a woman comes up to me, and she says, John, I love following you on Instagram. You're so funny and tall. She said one of those words. But I'm just trying to get that vibe going that I'm a very tall person. I'm not, really not. But she said, John, I love following you on Instagram. And then she said something that surprised me. She said, I didn't know you wrote a book. And that was a punch in the stomach for me, because I've written 7. And what she was saying is, you're not good at your business. And she was right. And I went back through my Instagram account. And I realized, oh no, like it's mostly just like pictures of dogs I want to pet or jokes about queso. It'd be like if somebody said to you, if your next door neighbor said to you, I had no idea you were into plexus. Like you would know, oh, I'm not talking about this the right way. And here's the thing. The very first thing that an event planner, because that's a big part of my job is doing live events like this. The very first thing an event planner looks at is my social media accounts. And if they went to them, they wouldn't know that I wrote a book. They wouldn't know that I do events. They wouldn't know anything because it wasn't well done. And I realized that's not fun to me. Like I'm not naturally good at Instagram. I'm really not. So I need to figure out a way to add more fun to that. So I went to the most honest person I know, my 17-year-old daughter. And I said, hey, am I good at using Instagram? And she said, you use it like an old man. And I said, well, you're hired. And you're also grounded. It was a confusing day for her. I mean, she could have said, okay, boomer. So it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But she changed my account. I hired her to help me do that. And it made it fun. I'll show you an example of this one thing we did. Take out your phone or pretend you're not already on your phone. If you have Instagram, open up the app and search John Acuff. You'll see my bio. My bio used to be a paragraph. It was a thick paragraph. And my daughter said, Dad, your bio is terrible. It's 3 sentences. And I said, it's only 3 sentences. She said, we don't have time for that. We're a very busy generation. She said, it needs to be hyperlinks and emojis and bullet points. And I said, I don't know what some of those words mean, but let's go ahead and change it. And she did. And as a dad, I'm always looking for ways to connect with my teenage daughters. Like they tell you what goes fast. Parenting doesn't completely go fast. Whenever somebody says to you it goes fast, they shouldn't tell you that when you have a toddler. Like the first 3 years, never say to a mom or dad of a toddler, goes by so fast, because those days are 48 hours long. But as they hit high school, as they hit middle school, it starts to go fast. So I knew if I'm going to be motivated to work on Instagram, I'm going to hire my daughter because it's another connection point, and that'll be fun. That became a reward. So I challenge you today, okay, if you want a simple activity, I dare you to do this. Write down the 5 most challenging parts of growing your business, and then decide, do I need to add some reward? Do I need to add some consequence? And most people are usually a combination of both. They are. Like I prepare for events like this, not because of the reward, but because I don't want to bomb. The consequence of bombing, of me having 45 minutes to talk to you and being out of ideas in 4 minutes motivates me. Other things, you know, the ski boots were a positive reward. So you're going to be a mix, but you've got to make it fun if you want it done. The last principle, if you want to finish, is you've got to eliminate your secret rules. Everybody brings secret rules into the work they do, especially around goals, especially growing a business. Some people might call them limiting beliefs, but it's just an untruth that you're carrying around that's holding you back. And there's actually an interesting example of this in the nature world. There's this bird called the cuckoo bird. We've all heard about it from clocks, but it's actually a real bird. And a cuckoo bird is what's known as a parasitic brood, which means when it's going to have a baby, it doesn't build its own nest. It finds another bird that's already built a nest and it hides its egg in there. Now, birds are terrible at arithmetic. So the bird doesn't notice that there's this alien species in the nest, and cuckoos have a faster incubation cycle than other birds, so they hatch first, and the first thing that baby cuckoo does is kill every other bird in the nest. It either steps on the eggs or throws them over the edge in like a Game of Thrones avian situation, the things I do for love. And then the mother bird usually dies of exhaustion from having to feed this gigantic species. I brought a photo of that. Here's what it looks like. You and I can easily see the lie in this picture, right? You and I can see that, wait a second, those 2 things aren't connected. I think even that little mother bird with her beady little black eyes is like, this is some nonsense. This Jabba the Hutt looks nothing like me. But I would argue that all too often we have cuckoos in our own lives, these little lies that we started to believe maybe a long time ago. We keep feeding them time and energy and creativity without even knowing it. And so we've got to get rid of our cuckoos. We've got to eliminate that if we're going to grow and be the people we really can be. And sometimes it's around success. Sometimes a cuckoo is you're afraid of success. That's one of your secret rules. I met a CEO once who said, John, and he ran a small business. He said, John, that other CEO makes $3 million. How do you think he sleeps at night? And I wanted to say probably on like Hungarian down pillows, like probably very well. But in his mind, 3 million was too much money. 3 million was past the line. He had this secret rule that success was bad. So every time he would get close to it, he would pull back. Every time he would get close to it, he would self-sabotage. And maybe you're having the same trouble right now. Maybe you look at other people online and think, I could never do what they do. I could never grow to a diamond. They're so much more creative than me. Because maybe when you were 13, a teacher said you're not creative and you believed that, and you didn't even know you were believing it, but year after year after year, you've been believing that. I brought a few secret rules that people told me. Here's a list of real things people told me, secret rules. Maybe you identify with one of these. Number one, success in the marketplace would mean failure as a mom. I'm just a mom. You ever heard that one? Ever felt that one? I hate that one. The idea that you only have two options, grow a huge business or be a good mom. I think you can have a thriving business and be a thriving mom. That secret rules get in the way. Another one, I'm too old to be relevant. What's interesting there is people tell me I'm too old, John, and then they'll tell me I'm too young. They argue both sides of the coin. What about this? People are only nice to you when they want something. Or I can't succeed at running because I have the wrong body type. A career in the arts isn't a real career. You'll never make a good living doing something you love. Someone smarter has already written the book that I want to write. There's so many different secret rules. And one of them that I see a lot is I can't ask for help. There's a lot of people that think they can't ask for help. Recently on Twitter, I asked 900 people, I said, is it harder for you to ask for help or to offer help? And 95% of people said it's harder for me to ask for help, which means it's easier for them to offer help. We've got a huge world of people that are dying to help you if you'll only ask for that help. And that's where you get to grow. That's where you get to change. Because you're not supposed to do it by yourself. You're not. That's why you have a team. That's why on a Saturday morning, you're doing this. That's part of being a part of a community. You get to learn. You get to do what I call borrow someone else's diploma. You get to learn from the people around you. Where does it say you have to have the experience to learn from the experience? I think it's much better to say, hey, I need help. Can you help me? Can you encourage me? Can you challenge me? And I saw somebody do this once years and years ago, and I've never been able to forget it. It was Will Smith, the rapper and actor. When he was 21 years old, he was going to move to LA from West Philadelphia, born and raised. On the playground was where he spent most of his days. But he was 21, he was going to move to LA, and his manager, James Lasseter, said to him, if we move to that city without a goal, that city is going to eat us alive. So he said, Will, what's your goal? And Will Smith is 21 at the time, and he says, I want to be the biggest movie star in the entire world. Now, can we agree that's not a unique goal, right? Every kid on every bus from Kansas to Hollywood has had that same goal. But they were smart. In that moment, they paused and said, you know what? I bet somebody's already done that. You know what? I bet somebody's already accomplished that. And I bet they left a trail. I bet we can learn from them. I bet we can grow the same way. Can we study somebody who's successful and borrow their diploma? I mean, that's the reality. We're going to get to talk to Susie today, and she's a diamond. She's already done that. She'll share what worked for her. Chelsea Whitfield, she'd share what worked for her. You're surrounded by people that have already done some of the things you want to do, and they're going to pull you up, and it's your job, too, to share those, too, and that's what Will Smith did. And this is before the internet. I mean, this is 25 years ago. Will Smith and his agent went to all the movies. They said, what have been the top 10 highest grossing films, and is there a pattern? Can we find a pattern? Can we find a shortcut, if you will? Can we find steps to do what's next? And so they studied the top 10 highest grossing films of all time. Here's what they found. 10 out of 10 of them had special effects. 10 out of 10 of the most successful movies of all time had special effects. 9 out of 10 had special effects with creatures. 8 out of 10 had special effects with creatures and a love story. Now, there's no way that'll work, right? I mean, there's no way. Hollywood is so fickle, right? I mean, what a fickle industry it is. Can we agree on that? I mean, think about it this way. There was a movie once that had Han Solo, Harrison Ford. It also had James Bond, Daniel Craig. It was directed by Jon Favreau, fresh off of Iron Man. It was produced by Ron Howard, fresh off of everything. That movie made $11 million. Not in the first weekend. It made $11 million in its entire run. It was called Cowboys and Aliens. It was a tremendous failure. On paper, it made sense. In reality, it didn't work because Hollywood's fickle. Contrast that with Smokey and the Bandit. Smokey and the Bandit in 1976, when it was filmed, didn't have a script. Most of it was ad-lib. Burt Reynolds would just show up and be like, I got a mustache, let's film some stuff. Yeehaw! It was directed by a first-time director who had never directed a movie. Prior to that, he was a stunt driver. How do you even make that leap from that career to this career? Like, does somebody see you jump something off a big pile of dirt and they go, you want to want to direct a whole movie? And you go, I do. Woo! The plot was they had to get a shipment of Coors beer across the state lines. That's not a movie plot. That's a UPS route. Sally Field, who was one of the stars of the movie, said, I knew at the time it was the end of my career. I knew it was going to ruin me because it was such a terrible movie. You know how much money that movie made? $300 million. It was second that year only to a movie called Star Wars. Hollywood's fickle. There's no way Will Smith can take this idea and apply it to his career. But then you look at his career. Here are his top grossing films: Independence Day, special effects, Creatures Love Story; Hancock, special effects; Men in Black 3, special effects, Creatures Love Story; Men in Black, special effects, Creatures Love Story; I Am Legend, special effects, Creatures Love Story if you count the dog. Now, is this a guarantee? It's really not. Wild Wild West was a wild, wild bust. But here's the thing. We're not trying to be perfect. We're trying to be better today than we were yesterday and then repeat tomorrow. If you help studios make $4 billion, they let you make some movies. They let you grow. They let you make some mistakes. And you get to expand what you're doing. We're not trying to teach you this morning how to be perfect. We're trying to teach you how to be brave. We're trying to teach you that you're part of a team. We're trying to teach you how to grow, how to finish. And that's pretty magical, because here's what I've learned over the years. Starting is fun. It is. But the future belongs to finishers. Guess what happens if 92% of people don't finish their goals and you actually do? You become rare. You become valuable. You become successful. That 8% that's actually successful. Now, anytime I get to talk to a group like you, I love the question you ask first. Okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? I love that. I love talking to groups where you're already in motion. Sometimes I have to convince groups that they should be in motion. Not you. You're already in motion. Most of you already got up this morning, walked around the neighborhood. You've already done some things. You're in motion. So your question is, what's next? And let's be honest, this was only 45 minutes. I mean, I did a 3-hour version of this for FedEx at their corporate global headquarters. That one was a little tricky. It was tricky because they bought a book for everybody, which is awesome. Babies need shoes. Babies need shoes. They bought a book for everybody, but the publisher emailed me the tracking link to the shipment so that I could know, okay, they shipped the books to FedEx, great. Click on the tracking link, and it was a UPS link. So let me clarify that. I UPS'd books to the FedEx corporate headquarters. A dude in a brown truck had to pull up to the FedEx security gate and go, hey, I got some John Acuff books. He's a brilliant mind at business. Where should I put him? I'm not familiar with your campus. And while I was speaking, I could see this palette of mistake in the background. The next time I spoke there, you know what I did? The publisher sent me the books. I repackaged them in FedEx boxes and then shipped them. I learned. But I did a 3-hour version. This has only been 45 minutes, so I don't want you to miss what's next. So I've got something for you. I've got a 15-page workbook with a ton of actions, a ton of steps around these ideas. If you want a copy, just text John Acuff to 44222. I'll give you a copy of the workbook. I know a lot of you are going to pick up the book. That's awesome. It's audio, digital, paperback. That's fantastic. But if you want this is a resource that I've had for years to help teams say, okay, we want to take next steps. So I love that I got to share some of these ideas with you, and I can't wait to see what you do with them. I think this is the first of many times we're going to get to interact, and I can't wait to someday be at a live event in the same space where we get to talk about the things we're growing, the things we're excited about. And now we've got a few minutes for Q&A. So hopefully you've got a bunch of great questions. I'm going to answer them as fast as I can because I want to answer as many as I can.
Outstanding. Was that worth getting up for, y'all? Was that worth coming on live? I have to ask the question. I want to make sure. Yes? Very good. Very good. All right, Susie, I'll let you start with the Q&A.
Okay, good. So I'm going to ask my own questions first. my very first question. Oh, wait. I have a gift for you, John. Ready? This is going to change your world. Kale can be fun.
Look at that.
I'm telling you, get it from Sam's Club. I eat it every day. It is fun, actually.
Good.
Okay. My husband doesn't think it is, and he's a 7 also, but you would think it's fun. Okay, so my first question, I have lots of questions, but my first one is, does your wife, family members, and friends, do they read your books?
My wife reads the drafts. I'll say, here's one of the greatest things she's ever said to me. She reads everything I write and gives me real feedback. But sometimes I receive that with a grumpy attitude initially. Like I go like, oh, you're wrong. And then a day later, I'm like, actually, you're right. So now this last book, she walked in and said, do you want feedback or compliments? And I thought, that's a great question. And there's times and so I said, no, I want real feedback. So she reads them all. My parents do. My kids, my daughter's in a small group, and when she was in 6th grade, told the small group leader, when they are doing like, who are your parents? She said, my dad writes books. They're boring, but they put food on the table. That's how she described my career. So I'm like everybody else. Like my kids are like, whatever, it's your job. The only thing they ask me after a visit is if I do a speaking event, did they give you anything cool? My kids are always like, did you get any swag? Did you get a T-shirt? Did you get a candle? Like, what do you got? What do you got? So.
Okay. I'll do another question, not my own, because I'm a sharer. First of all, everybody wants to know the code again to get the free workbook, which I'm super
so
excited.
it's 44222. Maybe somebody can put that in the chat.
Okay.
And then you text it. That's the number you dial, and you text John Acuff.
Okay.
So my name, JONACUFF.
Okay. The next one, this is a good one. What are your top 5 favorite goals you've actually finished?
So last year I ran 1,000 miles, and that was one of my favorite, because I couldn't binge do it. I love goals that force you to do little steps along the way, because we have such a binge instant gratification culture that when you can do, like one of my principles is like, if I can do a little and build on it, like I'll get a long-term sustainable goal versus just like I did it all at once. The thing that I'm challenged by is we practice instant gratification 1,000 times a day with our phone, and then we are confused why we have a hard time with long-range goals. So that was one of my favorite. Writing books is one of my favorite. Being able to speak, I started this 12 years ago, and so getting to do stuff like this, I absolutely like. Hopefully that comes through even on a screen that like this is fun to me. I really enjoy. Like I pinch myself every time I get to do this. And then, I would say one of my long-term goals is I want kids that want to hang out with us once they're out of the house. So from a parenting perspective, I'm trying to raise kids. And then a 5th goal is like, I want my kids to be so full of love and their identity that when the world bumps them, they don't completely spill. Because there's going to be challenges that they face when they're in their 20s. And I know that's going to happen and they know it's going to happen, but I want their identity to be so set that they don't, that it's not something that significantly wounds them.
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. Now, be careful with when your kids want to hang out with you, because ours don't want to leave the house because we're so fun.
I don't want them to live here, but some visits would be nice.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a good one. What prompted you to become a writer?
Well, I had a teacher in the 3rd grade, Mrs. Harris, at Doyon Elementary School in Ipswich, Massachusetts. We were the clams. That was our mascot. Talk about a terrifying mascot. If a clam is coming at you, you only have like 3 weeks to get out of the way. But she laminated some poems I wrote in the 3rd grade and was the first person to tell me, I think you could be a writer. And so especially this year with teachers, I try to tell teachers as much as I can, like the little things you're doing, even in a year like this, matter so much more. Because the problem with being a teacher is you often don't get to see the last part of the story. Great teachers are usually like one verse in a kid's life and they don't get to hear the rest of the song. Rarely does an 8th grader come back to a middle school teacher and go, hey, like this changed my life 20 years later, I need you to know. So that was the first time that I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And it was because a teacher believed in me.
That's good. Teachers are so important. Okay, Cheryl wants to know, first she wants to thank you, and then she wants to know, what did you do before writing?
Yeah, so I actually, my major was journalism with an advertising focus. And so I was in corporate marketing for 15 years and had the chance to work at great companies like Bose and Home Depot and Staples. And so I started a blog. That's why I believe in side hustles so much. Like I'm a byproduct of going, what if? I love that Plexus goes like, what if? And then they give you the tools to do the thing. Like that's why I believe in it. Is my personal experience was I started a blog. It started to grow. I started to kind of lean into that. I started to give more life to that. I started to invest energy. I started one of my principles was being selfish at 5 a.m. I got up at 5 a.m. because I had a full-time job, I had a beautiful wife, I had 2 kids. Like, the time wasn't going to find me, I had to find it. And so it started to work. And so that's what kind of grew out of that. And then, you know, with a series of steps over the years, was able to grow that into a full-time career.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so Melissa says she's hit a plateau in her weight loss journey. She has much more she wants to lose. Advice on how to keep on the course and not get discouraged.
Yeah, well, one I would say is like, give yourself tremendous amount of grace, especially this year. There's a chance this is your first global pandemic. Like, there's a chance. Like, so I think, like, I keep begging people, like, give yourself grace, especially this year. So if you've hit a plateau right now, like, admit, okay, this is a challenging year and I'm going to be patient. So, like, be patient with yourself. I've never met somebody who on the back end said, I'm so glad I beat myself up and ended up being helpful. So, like, I would say right out of the gates, like, be kinder to yourself. Be willing to, you know, set some goals that are a week out or 2 weeks out. You know, change some things. Go back and figure out what's worked in the past. Sometimes one of our biggest mistakes is we leave all the good stuff we learned in the past. And I think maybe, you know, a chance to go, oh, wait a second, why did I stop doing that? That thing really worked. But yeah, first and foremost, lean into the process, like, lean into the work, but give yourself lots of grace. I always say, like, if beating ourselves up was good for us, we'd all have 6-pack abs because it's so common, it's so easy. But yeah, that's what I would say is lots of grace.
And I would like to add that plateaus are normal in your weight loss journey. I would just like to say that. Keep
going. That's the problem is fear tells you you're the only one that's had that. Like, fear lies and goes, it's just you. Everybody else, it's just a straight rocket ride.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, this one is about focus. And I just want to say that in March, when the pandemic started, I found myself focusing on all the crazy, negative everything. And at some point, I had to look at myself and I had to say, how is this serving me? Like, is this doing anything good for me? Are chasing these weird conspiracy theories growing my business, making me healthier? And so I literally just had to quit looking at certain things. And what you focus on grows. I started putting all my time and attention into my Plexus business, which was a great move. And like, but I needed it. For me, I needed accountability. I needed the camaraderie. So this person's asking you, what focus tips do you have to help with finishing? And how do you ignore the shiny objects?
Yeah, so I mean, one is, like, I agree with you. I had to delete the Twitter app from my phone. I still use it on my computer, but just having it in my pocket, and it was so negative. And I was like, and I caught myself watching news shows that had a rolling death ticker. And then I'd be like, why do I feel down? Like, because I was like guzzling negativity. And so, but when it comes to focus, I always like to think about it this way. Like, I had so many people tell me, executives, I can focus on airplanes, I should fly more. And I go, well, that's ridiculous. No, you should just figure out why you focus on planes. So you probably focus because you have deadlines. There's a deadline at the airport. They tell you to get on the plane. There's a deadline when you can take out your computer. There's a deadline when you're going to land. So I would say have some deadlines. So, like, for me, I'll set a 30-minute timer, 60-minute timer on my phone, which everybody has the timer app, and then I'll just do that thing for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever. Another one is I'll turn off my Wi-Fi. So I'll turn off the shine. Like, I think you have to be okay that you might have to treat yourself like a 5-year-old. Like, when I set a goal to get better sleep at night, I was like, wow, if I get on Netflix right before bed, I end up staying up later. I got to keep my phone in the kitchen. I would love to say that I'm enough of an adult that I can have it next to my head and not be tempted. But, like, if it's in the room, I'm touching the phone. So there, like, I think you have to set some boundaries. And so you go, okay, I'm not going to beat myself up for having these weaknesses, distractions, whatever, but recognizing them, I'm going to be deliberate about how I use them and what what kind of boundaries I set up. That's how you focus. I think you can't focus just by white knuckling it. Like, you can't, like, the solution to focusing isn't try harder, because you've already been trying really hard. A lot of times the solution is, I'm going to keep the phone in the kitchen, and that, like, guess where it lives now? Like, goodbye phone. Like, you live by the toaster at night. Like, that's where you and the toaster, like, you can spoon, it's up to you guys. But, like, that's the kind of stuff that I think if I can do that, it's easier for me to focus.
And that reward system that you talked about earlier, like, I love true crime. I love true crime. Yeah. I love serial murder. Like, something might be wrong with me because, but and I'm in a whole bunch of true crime groups, and I get really obsessed with those things. So my reward is once I get everything done that I need to do, my Bible study, my perks report. If you're not doing your perks report, people do them. My reach outs, whatever it is I need to do. Then my reward is I can go look around in all my true crime groups.
Yep.
I mean, isn't that such a weird thing? But it works for me. So,
but that's the thing. It's like it's only ridiculous if it doesn't work. Like, and as soon as it works, it's awesome. And so, like, in the book I put, there's a guy named Steve. He had a long honey to-do list, and he realized, okay, I have like a jacuzzi bathtub that I like to use at night. It takes 15 minutes to fill up. So I'm going to turn the water on and then go do a task. And he got to the point where he couldn't get in the bathtub without a task first. Like, it worked so well that he was like, nah, this ain't right. I gotta hang up a picture. Like, I gotta change some light bulbs. Like, this ain't right. And so, like, that was his reward. Would that be the same for me? No, but that's why goals are personal. And so you take, like, and it's not like there's a system. The best part of Plexus is like, there's not like, it's, you guys have done this. There's a system. There are steps. It's just you figuring out, okay, I know the steps. Like, I know how to get to diamond. It's not a mystery. Like, nobody right now is like, we don't know how it happens. It's just like, you get hit by a comet and people need our stuff. Like, you have a system, and then you have to go in and go, in order for me to walk this system, what are the things in my life, my strengths, my personality that I need to apply so that I can take these steps? That's how it goes. And then you get to be Susie and go, yeah, it worked, and here's how it worked, and here's what I'm excited about. So yeah, there's a lot of people watching right now that go, I don't like true crime. Awesome. Like, do something else. Like, find your true crime.
Right.
Find your true crime. I like that.
Yeah, that's the tweet. There's the tweet.
I do like that. John Acuff, find your true crime.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, John, I want to be protective of your time. I know that we only asked for so much of your time, and I don't.
I told you I'd be tempted to answer 1,000 questions.
And listen, I'm tempted to let this thing just keep going, but I want to honor our agreement with you and Susie and everybody else on the call. Hey, y'all, hang on just a second before we wrap up. I want the following people have earned swag. Please email training@plexusworldwide.com. Kelly Higginbotham, Kathy Thomason, Lynn Mangan, Christina Olson, Tammy Kalman, Tara Wright, because she wants to join a FUD. Is it a FUD Mutter? She wants to join one to get shocked, so I thought that was worth some swag. Destiny Waddington for listening in the truck stop in Nevada. We appreciate you. Tanya Arney and Wesley Bishop. A couple of first timers, Libby Cole, Kelly Sawaski, Penny Ressler, Melissa Harabison, and Angela Wright. You guys all got swag. So thanks I hope you stayed on. John, thank you for the actual benefit of the workbook. That was a very generous offer. I hope you all take advantage of that. John, would you be okay if we get that for our Canadian and Australian listeners who are telling us that the text does not work for them?
Yeah, so I'll email you guys a copy. How about that?
That would be great. And so sure. we will make sure. So training@plexusworldwide.com. If you listened and you need the workbook from one of our other countries. And Susie, we will send you some swag. John, we have been requested to send you a care package of Plexus products. So
all my kids will care about. That's all my kids, like, they're going to say, did they give you any swag, Dad?
We have swag, we have children's products. It will be fantastic. Susie, you have a question?
Yes, I think he'll want to answer this. I'm going to read all 7 of your books because I told you I'm now your biggest fan.
Sure.
But if this is the only one I've read so far, what would be the next one you would tell me to read? Should I start at the beginning?
Thank you.
I feel like the next one. So I told the team the other day, the next book's about overthinking, and I think it's one of the most expensive uses of our time that we don't even know we're paying. And so I'll make sure, like I said, that you get an early copy of that. But that would be the next one, since that one's not technically out yet. I'd read Do Over because it's a really practical way to build relationship skills, character, and hustle. And so I think you'll walk away from it.
I was kidding earlier about not reading your Get Started book. I am going to read, or what's it
Oh
called?
yeah, no. Yeah.
I was only kidding because you said that that one didn't do as well as this one.
I know do-over
I
was
read
the
all
one
of
I
them.
felt like the title. Yeah. They're all amazing. Every kid is beautiful, right? Every one of your kids is amazing.
Exactly.
Yes. John, first of all, Susie, let me thank you for being on. I know that you could have been doing a million other things. We're so grateful that you decided to come on and help us with your enthusiasm and your encouragement and just opening yourself up. I know that you fangirled hard, and
Okay. Yeah. Oh gosh, so many comments. Okay, I'll look at the comments in a second. Had a couple things I want to cover, and I know we've already kind of gone long. I haven't read his book yet. I plan on reading his book because I groove with his style, probably similar to the way Susie feels about it. I took a few notes this time earlier when I told you when I started listening to him. I got so motivated. I'm like, I want to clean something that I've totally procrastinated on. So I started cleaning. Anyway, I wanted to tell you guys a quick couple of different stories. And while I'm telling these stories, if you haven't yet invited and tagged people, do that. Or if you haven't added the suggested, where I said I'd made a post in my team page and in the alumni group, basically that says, that shows the graphics that you can add onto your story. If you don't know how to add to a story, that's okay. We can figure that out later. But most of you do because you've been on these calls where I teach you how to add onto a story, how to add a poll to a story, all that good stuff. The story I wanted to share with you is I had parents that were polar opposites, completely like you can't get more opposite than my parents were from each other. And my mom, I don't know what she was like before the parts that I remember. I have heard stories from people that makes me think she was probably a little more chill than what I remember, but she's basically a spaz. And she's one of those people that when my sister was in high school, my sister who's 8 years younger than me, I would go watch her play basketball with my parents, especially if it was an away game. I would pull up at my parents' house about the time it's time to leave. My dad is sitting in the vehicle because it's time to leave. He's sitting in the vehicle. If these days he'd be looking at his phone, but we didn't have phones back then. So he's sitting in the vehicle and I get in and he's like, she's doing it again. And I'm like, oh God. Okay, well, what doing it again means she had this, I'm sure she still does this. This 12-step program is what we called it. It was, okay, she was a woman who, let me back up and say this, wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but then my dad was literally a cocaine addict, just putting it out there, a crackhead, a virtual, literal crackhead. And at right around this, I mean, just a few years before this, we had lost our house to bankruptcy. He had literally sniffed the house payments straight up his nose. So my mom had to go to work, and she did have a degree, fortunately for everyone. She started teaching, but also it made her life totally different than what she wanted. So she's working her butt off and come home from school, get ready for the next day because you're about to go to a ball game. Because you're not going to come home and get ready for the next day. You need to do it all before. So she'd come home. I don't know what she did in the in-between time, but when it was time to go, what she was doing is she carried a Bubba jug. Okay, this is a big Yeti, but she carried one about twice this. There you go. Oh, Linda has a Bubba jug. Oh, we can't see it very good, Linda, because it's green. There. Okay, my mom carried one of these virtually everywhere she went. I'm sure people thought she was drinking vodka just to tolerate my dad. But it wasn't. It was Diet Dr. Pepper. It was Diet Dr. Pepper with a little squeeze of lemon or lime, a little splash of cranberry to help her kidneys because that's all she drank was Diet Dr. Pepper. She had a concoction. And so she'd be in there, throw a load of clothes in the washer. Okay, the ones from the dryer, do this, da-da-da-da. Oh, close that cabinet door. Run into the living room, grab up this, go throw it on the bed. Okay, Bubba Jug. It's Bubba Jug time. And I always probably showed up around Bubba Jug time. I'd get in the car because I absolutely did not want to walk in the house. about that time, my dad would lay his head on the horn. It's time to go. Okay, so being raised by these two very different personalities, my dad's super chill, believe it or not, and my mom sort of neurotic and goal-oriented. Okay, well, I've started noticing actually both tendencies in my life a little bit. I've always noticed some of it, but some new stuff has been creeping out in the last few years. And one of the things is I play games in my mind, like he described it perfectly, like filling up the bathtub. I'll do something that is time sensitive, like I'll sort of similar to setting a timer, but maybe I'll stick something in the oven and I know I have a 14-minute window or whatever. And I literally challenge myself because I keep a running list of things I need to do, want to do, have to do. And I keep it in the notes in my phone. So I just literally look at my list before I go put whatever I'm going to put in the oven. And it's like, boom, 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 boom. And you would be surprised. I don't know if you would. If you're already like this, you wouldn't be surprised how much stuff that you can actually knock out in a 10 to 15-minute window of time when that's all you're doing. Then you have the other end of that spectrum. For example, my son's dating a girl that doesn't live here. So they text a lot. So I told him to watch this. I don't think he is. So he'll start doing the dishes or whatever his chore is at that very given time. He'll start doing it and I'll look over and he'll be like, and then like 20 minutes later, oh yeah, he's supposed to be doing dishes. So, or whatever he's supposed to be doing. And he starts doing something again. And then I'll look over. There's two ways of doing things. And one of it makes it take 2 hours, right? One of the ways makes it take 2 hours when it's a 15-minute job. And I don't care what he does. I'm just kind of giving you examples of what I'm talking about here. For me, things that I don't like, I have to do that with myself. I have to play a game with myself. Make it a challenge for myself. Make it like it's a game, whatever. Okay? Now, I have one other quick story to tell. When he started talking about being a writer and who encouraged him to be a writer. When I first started really working my Plexus business, I was writing out stories all the time. I was telling the story of my life, basically in bits and pieces. One day, out of the blue, somebody starts telling me, "You need to be a writer. You should write. You should write a book. You should whatever." And all I could think in the back of my mind is, I've always kind of wanted to, kind of thought it would be fun, seemed like something I would be good at. But when I was in high school, one of my teachers didn't like my style of writing. Some of you may have heard this story before. I've definitely told it in breakthrough classes. She didn't like my style of writing. She always gave me way lower grades in just because of my style. I didn't know it was because of my style. I just thought I was a terrible writer. So at the end of the year, in my senior year, they asked if anybody would like to take a test to CLEP out of a college class, basically. I can't remember what they call those tests, but anyway. So she's asking people, and I'm in like an advanced placement class. All the valedictorian, salutatorian people are in this class, and they all raise their hand. They want to take it, and I'm like, I think I will too. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous to raise my hand in front of her because she so doesn't like me. So she hands one to me with literally a grimace on her face, like, really? And so I take the test, and I leave out of there thinking, I think I did really well on that test. Well, when the envelopes came back, basically saying who did and who didn't, basically, we're excited to announce or we're terribly sorry. I didn't open she handed everyone's back out to them. She doesn't know the responses yet. And everybody's looking at theirs. And they're like, everyone in the room was like, shoot. So I wouldn't open mine because I didn't want to be disappointed. And in a little while, I did open it, and it's like a congratulations letter. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Well, in a few minutes, she can't stand it because I haven't shown a reaction one way or the other. And she comes over and she's like, how did it go on yours? Like, what were the results? And I kind of tilted it and showed it to her. And she's like, Then she even asked if maybe the letters got handed out wrong or if names were wrong, all this stuff, because the other people didn't and I did, all this stuff. Okay. I go to college, my 1 year in college, and I take a composition class. That's what I had clept out of. So I had clept out of a composition 1, so I'm in composition 2, and my professor asks me if I will make a copy of something I wrote for him and if I will literally have it framed for him. He thought it was so good, and I was like, ah! And then he told me, you have a Reader's Digest style of writing, which I thought was so interesting, considering basically that's all I'd ever read my whole life. I would tear apart a Reader's Digest cover to cover, just like read all the stories that I want to read. So I thought, how interesting that he picked up on literally a style from I write like I read, basically. I wrote, and still do, write like I was inclined to read, basically. Now, then he asked me what my major was, and when I told him, he's like, why are you not a journalism major? I don't know if it's because I came from a town that didn't focus on, or a school that didn't focus on that kind of stuff, or if it had to do with the fact that I was looked at and didn't realize I was looked at as a girl who had a crackhead for a dad, so probably would never get very far. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I didn't even know what journalism major was. I thought that was somebody who stood in front of a news camera and the general journalism. That's what I thought. And so I was like, no, not that. Anyway, I share that story with you because the funny part of it is that teacher lives 1 street over where we do flag patrol. You know, we get in our little golf cart and my friend Amber and I, we go tootling all over the place, and we go over on flag patrol, and her husband comes out and talks to us almost every single day. Like, I've never seen her or anything, but I always just think he when he walked out one day, he started talking to us, and he's a veteran, and we were handing out flags, so that worked quite well and all this kind of stuff. And he says his last name, and I was like, really? And then it's just been interesting. Jetty Malia needs something. I'm not sure what. She doesn't know that I'm still on the call. She's gone back that way. So anyway, I just think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that we kind of get wrapped up in what people think about and what people think about us, and actually their focus on us and whether they're focused on us and if it even matters. And I'll leave it at that for now. I have more to say about all that topic, but it probably would be better suited for a different Zoom. No, different person. Oh, ASVAB. No, that's a different, well, is that the military one? I did really weirdly well on the ASVAB. I didn't do well on a lot of the ones that matter, but I did well on the ASVAB to the point that, or if that's the military one, where they like drove me crazy for a while. Y'all know me. I look like the military. Okay, now I'm moving on. I'm going to look at my notes real quick. Okay, in regards to what he talked about tonight, I want you guys to answer some questions for yourself. Because I learned in a John Maxwell training that your only takeaways are the ones that you actually go immediately. They call it a golden nugget. Basically, the only thing that you actually retain long-term are the things that you address immediately within the first 24 to 48 hours of hearing it. So I want you to be asking yourself, what's your reward or what's your consequence? Which one works best for you in the different instances? I'm one of those people, like when I have a Tuesday night call coming up and I need to get my act together, that's more of a consequence type thing. Like I want to have my act together. I want it to be right. A reward thing is something that, for me, something I don't necessarily have to do, but I know that there's a benefit if I do it. Like, for example, post my testimony on social media. I don't have to do that. There's not going to be a consequence if I don't. I don't have to do events every month. There's not an actual consequence if I don't. I don't have to add people and tag people in the groups. There's not a consequence if I don't. But the reward for me, I play games in my mind, basically play games with myself, and I tell myself, I set timers on my phone, because what you may have noticed about yourself is if you work for a corporation, or if you work in the public and you have a more of a typical job and you don't work for yourself, you walk around in consequence land. And there doesn't even really need to be a reward. The reward is do it or you lose your job. Mostly consequence, right? But when you're working for yourself, if you don't master, I'm going to probably repeat this. If you don't master what they talked about in this video tonight, to a degree, for yourself, you won't take it very far. If you don't master rewards and consequence for you setting your own goals and achieving your own goals. And we're also different. This is not a cut and dried thing to where I can say, here's what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. So I want you to be asking yourself, what's your reward and what's your consequence? Also, he talked about the cuckoo birds. And, and if you do have secret rules in your head that are lies, and that's what made me, once he started talking about the thing about what inspired him to write, how did he become a writer, I started thinking, yeah, that's a kind of a secret rule I've had in my head for years. I don't have a degree in it. I don't have a whatever. Even though I have so much content, literally you could puke on all the content. I mean, you could literally gag yourself on the content that I have. I have so much. I do team calls that last almost 2 hours every single week since 2014, 13, something like that. 50, I'll say on the average, somewhere between 45 and 50 weeks a year that I get on here. And until we started doing the Monday motivation or whatever very recently, I'm making up the content or putting things together so that we have content, so it stays fresh, so there's something new to learn, all of these things. And so I have content, but I haven't written a book yet. Well, I'm lying. I have really close to a book on my computer that nobody knows about till I just told y'all about it. Like, I don't talk about it. I don't talk about it because to me it's very personal. Okay. One last thing. I loved where he said, where does it say that you have to have the experience? You have to have the experience to learn from it. I used to watch a guy who's kind of a spiritual guru person. He's passed away now. And he focused so strong on that concept right there that I probably haven't mastered. In other words, if as a human being, if you are intended to learn some of your basic principles to be able to claim that you are human, for example, like if you're born and before you die, you probably will learn compassion. You probably will learn unconditional love. You probably will learn forgiveness, all of these things. His concept was you can learn it the hard way, which means you can go through it. And he tells some really incredible stories about his sister-in-law who had a near-death experience and how it changed her life. And he said, I literally watched her go from being uptight, gripey, hosting all the holidays with all the goodies, but also unbearable because she was a martyr and doing all the things, and I do all the things, and I invite people, and okay. She switched once she had that personality. Once she had the near-death experience, she would attend holidays instead of host them. And she would sit over in the corner and read a magazine and not worry about a thing. And he said, one day I was like, something weird, something going on here. So I went over there to her and I was like, something happened to you in that near-death experience, didn't it? And she was like, yes. And he's like, well, what did you learn from it? And she said, what I learned is none of this matters. It's a show. and it's basically bull. And she said, everything I was doing that was driving me crazy and making me insane doesn't matter. And he said, I thought, that's probably something I came here to learn, and I'm going to learn it from her. He didn't have to have a near-death experience. He didn't have to do anything, basically, because he lived vicariously through her and learned that. So when he was talking about where does it say you have to have the experience to learn from it, I carry that with me almost every single day, almost everywhere I go when people are going through something. Now, I will tell you this. I've learned from experience, from being sort of inclined toward being empathic myself. I don't try to jump in everybody's shoes anymore and feel it for myself anymore. I don't try to take on their burden anymore. I did that for years, and I realize it's not really good for me. You don't have to go through the experience. Did I just say it? You don't have to even go through it in that way. You can be sympathetic and even a version of empathetic without literally feeling like you're going to die in the gutter while someone else is having a depression episode or whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? To me, it's like everything. To be able to did you know that you might not even have to know someone to learn from their experience and get it? Completely get it. I get it. I basically, I never talk about this topic. I don't know why, but to me, it's like something that's so instilled in me that when I watch somebody walking something out, when I see their experience taking place, and whether it's positive or negative, whether they're experiencing consequence or they're experiencing reward, whatever they're doing, I ask myself questions in my mind all the time. I'm asking myself questions. How would you react to that? Would it be a positive experience? Would it be a negative experience? Would you come out on the other side a changed person? You can do that for yourself. I believe you basically get to fast forward through a lot of life's crap when you are, because I say life's crap. I think part of I think part of our placing judgment on the experiences that we're going through is why I said crap. Not the word crap, but I'm saying why you experience stuff that you deem as crappy. Does that make sense? Like you look at it and you don't realize that it's a lesson season that you're going through, and instead you're like, and basically go into victim mentality, and you're like, all the bad things and they always happen and all this kind of stuff. When basically, if you could just recognize, this is what I'm going through right now, I'm probably supposed to learn something, and you immediately start digging for the treasure. I know there's just something here for me. I wouldn't be going through this experience if there wasn't some sort of treasure for me, something to learn. I believe that I'm careful choosing words here because some of these words are like trigger words for people. I believe that we're born here on planet Earth to experience things as though it's a classroom, and the life that we go through, I believe, is handpicked for us. Now I believe that there's free will in it, and I think that's probably the part that we don't recognize as closely as we should, because where there's free will, that things could be, that you could make your own decisions and all the good things. Also, there's the free will to check out and take a Valium or something like that instead of actually going through an experience. Or we could check out and go to do something and completely forget that things are happening and not go through the actual part of the lesson where you're supposed to learn a lesson. Does that make sense? Okay, now I'm going to really quick address anybody's questions, maybe. Okay. I'm sorry you guys were having trouble. Some of you were having trouble getting on. I'm just now realizing that. Okay. I did some adding and tagging too. High five, Linda. You're over here to me. I'm high-fiving you that direction. I don't know where you are on my Zoom, or vice versa. That's Vab. You're right. That's what it was, is Flag Patrol. That I'm taking a picture of because Amber will think that's hysterical. Okay. Some people need to go through a lot of lesson seasons. Oh, also, I'll tell you this too. This is just my belief. This is a little nutty, but I believe sometimes the people that we think need to go through a lot of lesson seasons based on what we see may be people who were literally born to take us through a lesson season. I'm talking your Coke smokers. I'm serious. I'm serious. I think that they are here to refine us. And they go through their own, whatever. Okay. I think I'm caught up in the messages. I have lots of private messages, but none of them do I feel like I should address publicly. And that's weird. I know usually when I get a private message, I usually address it and then don't say a name or whatever, but I don't think I'm really supposed to address, unless I already did. I know I said something to Christia. Okay, I'm going to turn this on some music real quick. I'm going to pray us out of here. Mm-hmm. While I'm getting this ready, does anybody have a question? I suppose you would have already typed it, but just in case. Tell you on one other funny thing. The other day, my massage therapist was telling me that she'd had ankle pain, her left ankle, since she was I think she said a sophomore in high school. Something happened. She had an accident or something. Anyway, so I don't know why I'm supposed to tell this tonight, but like when she flips me over and I'm on my stomach and she's rubbing my back, I was like, she and I talk about all kinds of fun spiritual stuff. And so I was like, okay, kick your foot closer to me, because she's up here rubbing my back from above. And I just reached down to her ankle that's hurt literally. She's my sister's age, so she's 40. She's a little older than my sister. She's 40. And I reached down and touched her ankle, and I start commanding it to leave, and it did. Like, she's like, oh my gosh, she got so excited. I don't know if somebody on here has ankle pain, but I can't stop seeing everything that has to do with her. So maybe I'm supposed to share that tonight. That just happened this week or last week. Okay. Anybody want to share a goal or a reward or anything I've asked about that they have going on? Anybody want to share a reward or a consequence or a secret rule? Or where does it say you have to have the experience to learn from it? Anybody want to share anything like that? No, truly no pressure, but if somebody does. Yep, Christia, I see you. Okay, I'm going to turn the music.
Yeah, I'm over here baking like a buttload of cupcakes, literally. That's why I'm not tagging anybody, because I'm scooping.
Okay.
Like, I think I'm on like 12 dozen at the moment. When he talked about the happiness part of it, I have never equated a goal and happiness together. That was like, whoa. I mean, like, it really hit me hard. And I love happy, which is probably why there's a lot of the goals that I've set and wanted to do that don't get done. Because even exercising, it's like, to me, it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be discipline, not fun, willpower. Just do it. You're miserable, and the outcome, you'll be able to be happy. And that's never, it never drives me. I quit.
That's good. That's really good. I know when I was listening to him, it made me think of, I've probably said this before too, but it made me think of when at my baby shower for Trip, somebody gave me a baby book, that you record all their stuff in. And it had a clear layover where someone had generically answered the question. So it'd say like, what was my first accomplishment? What was my first this? This was my first this. It's like the baby talking. And it had, from Hallmark, it has Hallmark's version of an answer. So it's, I guess if you're not smart enough to realize you're supposed to fill in the blank, it's showing you. Fill in the blank. And it's on a piece of like I said, clear something. And anyway, it's written out. And their answers had to do with, for a baby, mind you, had to do with success and all this stuff that had to do, it's like big adult words that Hallmark had filled it in with. And all I could think for myself is, literally, I'm not reading anything about happiness in all of these, nothing about happiness. There's stuff about goals for a baby, success for a baby down there, down the road, but nothing in the answers that this Hallmark mom, had put on there, nothing about success being happiness, like literally the end result being happy. I had to learn about this myself. I jokingly talked about my mom earlier. My mom's I don't know about for her own life personally, because she's kind of one of the personalities that she's bolder telling her kids what they need to do with their goals than she actually is their own goals kind of deal. She's like, don't waste this opportunity. Don't make sure you're doing this and that. And for me, there was never happiness in that. In fact, it often felt like punishment. Achieving a goal was often her goal, first of all. And it often felt like to get there, you had to feel like punished, small. You had to practice a lot, and you had to do these things. And I want to break that off of people tonight. God, may we be truly focused on joy, on peace, heavenly happiness. May we choose the goals that are intended for us. May we achieve them in the happiest way possible. I mean, seriously, like I look at planting flowers, weeding a flower garden, and swimming, those kind of things. I look at that like exercise. If I look at exercise in any other way, I'm not going to do it. There's no way, because I was actually made to exercise when I was a kid, and it was punishment. There's no way I'm going to do it. Like, I just won't. I literally won't. I might start it for a minute. I might turn on some workout, something, but just like he said, it never lasts. I have to do stuff that's joyful. And I have to be held accountable. I've had conversations recently with Jetty and said, look, I'm feeling like this, and this, and I don't want to go down this slippery slope I've been down before, basically that lands in consequence zone. I don't want to pay consequences for this, and I'm feeling a certain way. If you see me doing this, or this, I give you permission and ask you actually to say, hey, let's reroute. Let's figure something else out. For me, having accountability, especially within my own house, and giving permission for accountability, because just like he said about, do you want feedback or do you want compliments? I can tell you from experience that has to do with being in the public and doing things publicly, like what I'm doing right now. I don't consider you guys necessarily public, but the thought of what I'm doing right now a few years ago made me hyperventilate. It's not bad anymore. I've raised my threshold, raised my lid of what makes me super anxious about stuff. And so I survive these with little to no actual pain. But when you're out in front of people, I think if you happen to be like me, you'll understand me. If you happen to be married or family with someone like me, this is a good tip. There's a time and a place for feedback, and there's a time and a place for you did great. I learned a lot from Brene Brown about that, because she's like, sometimes you have to let them say, it was terrible. It's terrible, but we're going to clean you up and get you back out there. You can do this. You're usually great. You're typically amazing. I think maybe if you tried this. I haven't, honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I think of myself in those terms to where I could take feedback that wasn't positive, but I'm not lying when I say I have to work at not being fragile, because of the fact when you put yourself out there all the time, it feels exposed. And so I don't know if any of you have anybody in your life that you can trust to say, look, I'm not living up to my potential and I know it and I want some help. And where I need you to help me is in this area. I need feedback from what you see that are my bad habits, from what you see that are my, not, you know, some of us have bad habits that are not really limiting us. They might just be bad habits as far as like, they may not be limiting us toward a certain goal. But most of the time, the reason we call them bad habits is because that's exactly what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? When I say bad habits, you would probably immediately go, oh, I know. Oh, yeah. Oh, immediately. Also celebrating the little, like the setting the timer or filling the bathtub. And then like literally, let's say if you filled the bathtub tonight and before you did it, pour you in some bubble bath or get you a bath bomb. So you're really looking forward to it. Go do the thing that you've been dreading doing and then really enjoy and celebrate your bath. Like really enjoy the reward rather than thinking of all the things you need to do later. I find that social media tends to be a coin flip for me, depending on like, if I'm just going to go lay in the bath and read a book or something, and if I get on social media, it might just be the most exciting thing ever that I get on there, but 9 times out of 10, I sit there and obsess about something that I'm reading or get it. Nope. I've turned social media into a means to an end for me. I'm social and kind with people. Didn't he talk about, magnifies kindness. I don't know if he said tragedy, but right now, kindness is magnified. When you see somebody doing something super kind, I literally start crying real easy right now when I see something kind happening. I was watching a video the other day, trying to remember what it was about. Jetty, if you remember what video it was about, I kept crying because, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. It was just somebody had gone out of their way to be kind. And I do believe that when the whole world has stopped right now, like the world hasn't stopped, but it has come as close as it can to actually stopping, especially around April, May. That's, I think, probably the closest we'd ever see to the world stopping. And people are probably sitting around earnestly waiting, honestly, for October and November to be possibly like that again, because virus season and a bunch of other stuff that I don't actually believe. But what I'm here to say tonight is I just really want us to be focused on the positive. Collective consciousness is something I totally believe in. So, and what you're focused on, I know for sure grows. If you're focused on the positive, it grows. If you're focused on the negative, it grows. So, and Susie was sort of talking about that too. So, okay. So I want to specifically, I'm going to command a couple things really quick because I think that's where I'm supposed to go. If anybody has numbness and tingling stuff going on in their body, and actually there's more of you than you know because these are private messages. Numbness and tingling or pain. Right now, I command pain and inflammation. It has to go. It can't stay. And as I say that, I want you to exhale. So I command numbness and pain and tingling to go. And I command a heat sensation. I command Holy Spirit fire to fall on you right now and begin to warm up the place where you were experiencing that. Several of you. God, I just thank you for your healing provision. I thank you that everybody on here tonight is open, that their spirits are open and receptive to receiving a supernatural, unexplainable, 100% creative miracle. I command knee pain to go right now in Jesus' name. It cannot stay. Numbness and tingling in the hands has to go right now. Shoulder pain cannot stay. I'm going to give some feedback to someone who just posted something, okay? Or just said something to me privately here, but I believe that so many people right now, we are at a threshold of what we can tolerate. Like, no more bad news, nothing sad, you know what I'm saying? Like, and when life feels that way, all I can do is share with you my own experience. Compartmentalizing your day a little bit in the best way that you can. So, say tonight before you go to bed, if you have people in your midst, family, who are going through a hard time and you're like, I can't right now. I mean, too much. Your stuff, my stuff, the world's stuff, and it's all, if we combine it all, it's too much. And one of us has to stay sane, okay? Do you understand? I have been the one that went off the rocker, and then other people had to pick up the pieces and they had to be the sane ones. And I have also been the other way around. So I feel like if you can compartmentalize, as you go. We've had one healing, guys. We've had one healing. Yes, God, more. Spread it around. I feel as though before you go to bed tonight, if you give yourself something to look forward to in the morning, even if it is this cold brew coffee that I bought at Aldi's, okay, and Aldi's delivers, okay, so this cold brew coffee, and then I put a little bit of Eagle brand in it because I'm not going to lie, coping, okay, I put a little dash of coping in it, splash of half and half, and I mean, I'm looking forward to it right now, and I'm not even going to do it till tomorrow, okay? Give yourself something to look forward to. Get out of the house, even if it's just on the porch, and just sing or sing. I'm going to say for you, I'm going to say sing. Just get by yourself and just do the very, 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 very best you can to fill up with joy. Because the other compartment that needs you, I get it, and you're like, I don't have anything to give. But you have to make yourself priority right now so that they can be priority. I know that sounds backwards, but something tonight, if you literally, I'm going to challenge you because I think you're the kind of personality that can totally rock what I'm about to say. Tonight before you go to bed, plot your day out for tomorrow. Say, if you're one of those that's like, I fly by the seat of my pants. But tomorrow, there are 5 things that even though I'm going to ride the riverboat that takes me from A to B, I'm going to ride that riverboat that takes me from A to B from morning to night tomorrow. And I'm going to walk all around the riverboat and do whatever I want because I have free will. But there are 5 things that I want to see happen tomorrow, and they're happiness things. One's I'm going to make my cold brew. 2 is I'm going to call my good friend who always makes me laugh. And I'm going to get on the phone with her, and I'm going to talk and talk and talk and talk, and she's going to talk and talk and talk, and we're not going to talk about anything serious. I'm going to tell her that's the deal. I don't want to talk about my pain or not my pain. I don't have pain. I don't want to talk about anything sad that's going on in my life. I want to tell jokes and completely nonsensical stuff. Everybody should have a friend like this who they don't want to hear your sad stuff anyway, so they just want to make jokes, and they're the perfect friend, okay? Like a one-night stand friend. Okay? Okay. I don't want to hear all your pain. Right? I just want to tell jokes, tell you something funny that happened this week, all the things. Okay. So that's number 2. And number 3, you're going to eat something fun tomorrow. I don't care what it is. I told you to put Eagle Brand in your coffee for the love. Okay. So think of one thing. I'm serious. I'm not trying to give you another bad habit, right? Okay. But I'm saying that's number 3. Number 4, I don't know what you're like. For me, I might go buy myself a plant. I know that sounds silly, but like if I'm going to get out of the house tomorrow anyway, I might swing by somewhere and get myself a pretty house plant. Okay. Because at the time of day where you reconvene with the person who needs you the most, you're going to have something so that you're not left going, short circuiting because you don't have anything and you're having to give. So joy, grounding, sunshine if you got it. Sometimes like today we didn't have it. Sunshine if you got it. Something fabulous to drink in the morning without vodka. Okay. Something fabulous to drink in the morning. Something fun to eat tomorrow at some point. Something great music to listen to. Plot it out tonight, because here's the thing. Once you've plotted it out tonight, you're going to be thinking about it when you go to sleep. You're going to even sleep better because you're going to have joyful to look forward to. When I was in Mary Kay, which by the way is the biggest racket on the planet, no offense, love all of y'all, but I will tell you the way that they go about getting you to buy stuff is insane. Like go into debt $1,200 when you're 19 years old right off the bat so you can have all this makeup on hand. It's nutty. But I learned something excellent when I was in it, other than the fact that it's a scam. And don't be offended if anybody's involved in it. I'm not meaning that offensive. For me, it was totally a scam. But what I learned is that Mary Kay Ash had this quote. I don't know if it was originally hers, but she'd always say, happiness is someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And honestly, when the world is weird, something to look forward to is hard because you don't know, like there's so many question marks, right? And if your own personal life is weird on top of the world being weird, and it seems like everybody's is. By the way, I'm supposed to say more. God, we just want more of your Holy Spirit, more of your presence in our day in and day out. Lord, we want the music of the Holy Spirit in our heart and in our soul. God, I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to have that cold brew and I'm going to sit out where the weather is kind of brisk. I'm going to be thrilled if it's brisk enough that I need a little bit of a lightweight hoodie. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, mm-hmm. Oh, it's probably Christia.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I'm going to be glad that it is like brisk and cool. And you know what's funny is so many of y'all are going to do this tomorrow. Like I'm answering one person, but so many of y'all are going to do this tomorrow because happiness is, well, I have a thing on my thing that says happiness is knowing Jesus that I got at an estate sale years ago. I thought it was super sweet. Obviously, that's true. Mary Kay Ash added a little to it and said happiness is someone to love, something to do. And tonight, let's plant some seeds of something to look forward to for a lighthearted, beautiful day. The seeds you plant tonight are way more likely to come up tomorrow than if you don't plant any seeds. Make sure you're making yourself a list. Make sure you're making yourself of things that are popping into your mind. If you've always wanted to plant a rose bush, but somebody told you roses don't grow in the kind of soil that you have, tomorrow's a great day to prove them wrong. If you've always wanted to do something that the only reason you haven't done it is not because of money and it's not but because, okay, did you know that I went my whole life denying what my favorite color is? Like, because my mom thought purple was ugly. She was like, it's such an ugly color. And I would be like, oh, yeah, it is. And so, like, I'd wear anything except for purple. And, like, I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm finally, when people say, what's your favorite color? I'm finally going, you know, I think it's purple. Not because my mom didn't like it at all. Like, I've always loved it. I literally wear purple eyeliner. Like, buy myself something purple. I'm going to go to the store tomorrow. and buy something electric purple. Probably annoy the fire out of my mother to be like, God, that's an ugly color. That's okay. Because it makes me smile. And also it makes my eyes light up. Okay. I'm just being silly with you guys. I know that Becky's gone, isn't she? I know her favorite color is purple. The red hair and the purple is a thing. It's a deal sealer. I'm not a deal breaker. It looks good. The red hair and the purple looks good. So if there's something you can think of, you know, I always wanted to do this one thing it's a decorating faux pas, but I always wanted to. So I'm going to. I've been doing a lot more, honestly. I'm doing a lot more of that in the last 6 weeks than I've ever done in my life. I'll just be like, you know what? I love that. I'm going to get it. Or I love that. I've had it in my closet. I don't know why. I don't mean clothes. Had something in a closet of things projects I need to work on. I put them away because somebody said something critical or whatever that is. Whew, brush it off. Get it out. Charge up that glue gun. Let's go. Let's make a wreath for fall. Even if you have to get the stuff from the Dollar Tree, right? Like, they have that junk at the Dollar Tree. Yeah. I heard today that they have some awesome stuff at the Dollar Tree. My daughter told me so. Okay. Anybody else that I was praying for here getting some relief? Oh, wait. Tonight we lift up Mindy. Oh, God, we command swelling to go. It has to go. In Jesus' name, it has to go. Swelling, pain, inflammation, it cannot stay. I expect a glowing report from Mindy. God, we thank you for the miracles you've already done. We got someone whose knee is not in any pain now. Thank God. I want to see a picture of it later, Monica. Tell her I want to see it. How exciting. Yes. Okay, Linda, are you saying it's there now or it left? It's there now, okay. So right now I just command any back and knee pain and inflammation. It has to go right now. In Jesus' name, we command, Lord, your healing balm over Linda right now in Jesus' name. Back pain, there's a couple of you. Back pain cannot stay. A curse of spirit. Wait, I can't. We come out of agreement. We come out of agreement with anything that has to do with pride. Help me, you guys. Leviathan is pride. Used to know these by heart. Let me think. From the Katie Souza video. God, we come out of agreement with pride. We come out of agreement with resentment. We release it right now, Lord, and anything else, any other traits of Leviathan. Pride, resentment. There's another one. God, instead, we fill ourselves up with holy righteousness and love, unity, unified mind of Christ on us. And God, we step clear of the judgment of Leviathan, and we ask that you would deal with Leviathan right now in Jesus' name. God, that you would completely that any of us that are on here tonight that are struggling with that spirit would be completely set free right now. Right now, it's got to go, got to go, got to go. I command it right now in Jesus' name, God, that you would deal with Leviathan. Okay, on the right side. Right now, I just speak to anything generational in Linda's family on her dad's side of the family. I cancel out any kind of generational curses. Put your hand on it. Jesus, thank you, thank you, thank you. More, 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 more. Holy Spirit, fire fall right now. Let go. It has to let go. It has to let go. Breathe really deep. Let it out. I got some of that stick-free gum and it's sticking to my lip. Okay, that's got to go. More, 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 more. Breathe in, breathe out. Might want to get up and move around if you think it might shift